Okay, so Zoe 40 motor repair. So this car's done 116,000 miles, started making a noise, sounded like the motor, but it was a little bit high pitched. The motor, just for reference, motor bearing noises tend to be a sort of hollow, low noise. It was a little bit high pitched, this one, so I did partly suspect a reduction gear. So these vehicles have it's about a 10:1 ratio fixed reduction, and it's like a reduction and then diff to split the power out to the drive shaft. But that, taking it apart and spinning the motor like I did in the last video, we can hear that's making a horrendous noise, so that's definitely the cause. So I've rebuilt a few of these motors. Ironically, this project was slightly delayed because the garage sent me a motor to rebuild. I've done a few rebuilds, and I'm sort of developing the method, and it's not a short job, I have to say. The first one probably took me a day, and I can do it in a few hours now. But I have found not all motors are kind of really suitable to rebuild. You can have other issues. So like this one's got a little bit of wear on the output shaft. You can kind of see that that's the part that doesn't come into contact with the cog on the reduction gear, and then this bit does, and it's got a little where it's a little bit more shiny. It's kind of worn a little bit there. I've seen one where they're really worn down. And there's various other issues. So you can actually have movement on these motors. So the bearing, so it's got a bearing at each end. The bearing in here can actually lock up, and then the whole thing moves, like the outer race rotates and it grinds the case, and then this shaft can wobble, and then that causes an issue with this position sensor. So this is the rotor position sensor, so it's got a load of coils there, and if you can just about see in there, you can see there's like a lobed metal ring there that gets closer and further away. If we get a bit closer, hopefully it will focus. Where are we? Oh, there you go, you can see it moving, and so it's kind of an ovaled ring. I actually got one of those, hold on, just to show you. Yeah, so this is that metal ring. They do tend to get a bit rusty, these as well, because they're just bare metal. So yeah, that rotates, and then the motor controller can see like the reflection of that signal, and it can know the position there. So if that shaft moves, that sensor loses the signal, causes it to break down. Obviously, if that bearing is moving, because where the bearing sits has kind of gone oval, you can put a new bearing in it, but the new one's going to move as well. So I've had about a 50-50 ratio of motors that are suitable to put bearings in, that I'm happy to rebuild for someone and then put them in a car, because it's a long job to do this, sort of 12 hours labour. You don't want to give someone a motor and it not be any good. However, you can kind of tell based on the characteristics of the symptoms with the car. So this car started, drove, charged, everything. It just got a bit noisy. So we know that everything still works, because this was our car. I mean, basically I said, right, we're not driving that anymore, sort of thing. No more long journeys, and then it got bad, and it's like, right, stop driving it, kind of thing. If you keep driving them until they break down, it's a lot less likely you're going to be able to put bearings in it. You just have to get another motor. It is a long job. This it is a long job. You've got to be pretty patient to want to do this. So in terms of the bearings themselves, there's a few tricky things about doing the bearing swap. One is finding bearings that have the right characteristics. So it's got a 10:1 reduction. We know that 10:1-ish. Some information says 9.5, some says 10, but let's call it 10:1. So the motor is spinning 10 times wheel speed, so you can work out the motor speed, but it's spinning really fast, and that's to get it within the correct efficiency window of the motor. There's obviously a place where it wants to spin, and the reduction gear has been designed around that and the sort of expected wheel speed. So it's quite a high speed, and if you get a standard bearing, that bearing is not designed for continuous speed output of that motor. So I know some people are rebuilding them and putting in bearings which are actually not technically capable of that speed. So it's about 11,000 RPM the motor gets up to, but people are putting in bearings which are max kind of 7,000 RPM. But on the data sheets where it says 7,000, that's under certain test conditions for a certain period of time, and it's kind of like, okay, well, 11,000 RPM, sort of 75 miles an hour, let's say. How long is it going to continuously do 75 miles an hour? Well, if it's a Zoe 22, it's going to do that for an hour max, because then it's going to run out of charge. And even on a Zoe 40, it's going to be 2 hours. So it's kind of up to you. The bearings I use are rated for high speed, because I'm not, even though some people are doing it, I'm not happy to do that. It's a long job. You've got to do it properly. So speed is one factor when trying to get hold of the correct bearings. Another one is, this one is held in with a snap ring. So you can see this one's actually corroded a bit on the outside, because this is steel in an aluminium case. So nice bit of sort of effective dissimilar metals. But yeah, so this one's got the snap ring that holds it in. This is the original snap ring. Trying to get bearings of the correct speed with the snap ring groove is not easy. I've gone for sort of a metal shielded one because they have a higher speed rating. Although they come with this snap ring, which just has a cut in it, doesn't have any legs like this one, and doesn't have that little indentation. So currently these are a massive pain to put on, because it doesn't hold. See, if it had that cut like that little, yeah, like that, it holds the circlip pliers in place. Whereas that, it's an absolute nightmare. So currently hunting for more, for better snap rings for them. The one at the other end, yeah, has this rubber seal in it. So yeah, it's really difficult to tell what that rubber seal is for, and trying to find a bearing for that end that's got the snap ring in it. It kind of, when I was looking, it kind of came down to, you can actually have a much higher quality bearing without the groove, so without the rubber seal, or you can have one with the groove, so you can put a rubber seal in it, but it's not coming from one of the bigger manufacturers, sort of thing. It's like a smaller, you know, less well known. So it's just a very difficult decision, really. If you don't have the groove, so if you don't worry about that, you've got a little bit more choice. So I kind of settled on these metal ones, although I've subsequently found this rubber sealed, high speed rubber seal one. So I'm going to give that a try. So I think with this motor I'm going to put these two in it. And this isn't going in a customer car, this is in a car that I'm going to drive around, so this is kind of a bit of R&D at this point. I've used this pairing of these two a few times, and that's okay. But yeah, we shall see. So yeah, all of those things have to be considered. There are, with bearings, you can buy really expensive bearings, but some are sort of £150 each, and you're sort of thinking, this is going to cost a lot on the time and everything. So it's sort of like, does it make it cost prohibitive, really? But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. It's kind of up to everyone to make their own decision, really. It's not yeah, it's not a simple process, that's for sure. But yeah, we're going to get down to it. So basically, we've got to get this box off. The motor wires are connected underneath. Do that and strip this off. There's got sort of a bracket there and a couple of bolts down like that either side. Undo the wires, take that off, and we can disassemble this motor. Basically, I've done this a few times, and I'm kind of getting there with it. There's always a bit of aluminium corrosion which needs cleaning up. This is not too bad, but when it comes to getting this cap off, so there's a cap that's bolted at that end of the motor, there's always a bit of corrosion in there, and that needs cleaning up as well. So yeah, and you've got to, although the corrosion can hold that cap on quite tightly, and you've got bearings, and those bearings have rusted a bit as well and made it go tight, you've got to be really careful and not put too much force into this motor, because you might damage it basically. If something doesn't exactly line up, it's just not going to be, it's not going to be reliable. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, but if it's something you want to do, that's entirely up to you. But yeah, we're going to get into that next. So yeah, cool, right, that's the plan, and we're gonna do it. So yeah, let me know if you've sort of attempted it, if you've done different things. Obviously this is just one way of doing it, different people are doing it different ways. I'm gonna get a metal bracket welded up for sort of assisting with part of the process, because it's not easy. There's a few different ways to do it, but just in terms of disassembly and then refitting the new bearings and stuff. Actually, interestingly, I've kind of done them in the summer, and now it's a bit cooler. it's actually a slightly different process now. The ambient air is cool. If you're in a heated workshop, it doesn't make much difference, but I've just in my sort of pop-up workshop outside, and the case of the motor, the one I did yesterday, it was noticeably different putting on the bearings. Actually fitting the new bearings was slightly easier because I heated them up, and then you can put them onto the rotor easier. But yeah, it's slightly more difficult putting the rotor back into the case because of the fact that the case is just a tad smaller, because of the sort of thermal expansion, or thermal contraction, I guess. So yeah, it's still good fun, but yeah, follow along and we'll get this motor apart. All right, cool.